Welcome to the program. I'm Alma Angeles and you're watching Eagle News International. On today's program, the U.S. launching attacks on Syria after a deadly attack on Americans. The U.S. hitting multiple targets after Iran-linked drone attack killed an American contractor and wounded 5 U.S. troops at a base in northwestern Syria. In Park City, Utah, actress and business mogul Gwyneth Paltrow took the witness stand defending herself in a lawsuit from a man who claimed she crashed into him in a skiing accident 7 years ago and severely injured him.
Thank you, Alex.
A powerful geomagnetic storm hit the Earth following instability in the solar atmosphere. First in our news, the U.S. launching attacks on Syria after a deadly attack on Americans. The U.S. hitting multiple targets after Iran-linked drone attack killed an American contractor and wounded 5 U.S. troops at a base in northwestern Syria. Take a look.
U.S. contractor was killed yesterday and 5 U.S. service members and 1 additional U.S. contractor were wounded after a one-way unmanned aerial vehicle struck a maintenance facility on a coalition base near Hasaka in northeast Syria at approximately 1:38 p.m. local time. Secretary Austin, at the direction of President Biden, authorized U.S. Central Command forces to conduct precision strikes into eastern Syria against facilities used by groups affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The airstrikes were conducted in response to yesterday's attack, as well as a series of recent attacks against coalition forces in Syria by groups affiliated with the IRGC. In terms of airstrike details, 2 U.S. Air Force F-15E fighter aircraft assigned to U.S. Air Force's Central and based in the CENTCOM area of responsibility struck 2 IRGC-affiliated facilities at approximately 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time or 2:40 a.m. local. The facilities were located near Dar ez-Zur in eastern Syria, and we're continuing to assess the outcome of the strikes. Initial indications are that the facilities were destroyed. Again, our focus in Syria is on the defeat ISIS mission, and that will remain our focus. We do not seek conflict with Iran. We don't seek escalation with Iran. But the strikes that we took last night were intended to send a very clear message that we will take the protection of our personnel seriously and that we will respond quickly and decisively if they are threatened. You go to Fadi.
To make no mistake, the United States does not emphasize seek conflict with Iran, but be prepared for us to act forcefully, protect our people. That's exactly what happened last night. We're going to continue to keep up our efforts to counter terrorist threats in the region in partnerships with Canada and other members of the coalition to defeat ISIS.
Now, the Pentagon saying they believe the drone was of Iranian origin. Hundreds of American troops and contractors are in Syria as part of a coalition fighting against remnants of the ISIS group. The U.S. troops support the Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, the Kurds' de facto army in the area, which led the battle that dislodged ISIS from the last scraps of their Syrian territory in 2019. Now, those Americans are under constant threat. 78 attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria over the last 2 years. U.S. Central Command says many of them carried out by Iran or Iranian-backed groups. And just hours after the U.S. retaliated, another attack on a separate coalition base and rockets, but U.S. officials say no casualties. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that at President Joe Biden's direction, he had ordered in response precision airstrikes tonight in eastern Syria against facilities used by groups affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In other news, hundreds of firefighters on Friday were battling Spain's first major forest fires of the year, which has so far forced 1,500 people to evacuate their homes. Despite several days of unusually warm weather, firefighters said the blaze was more typical of the hot summer months than the spring. Now, it began just after midday on Thursday after Villanueva de Viver, some 90 kilometers or 55 miles north of Valencia, and since then has raged out of control. A total of 450 firefighters, backed by 22 aerial units, have been deployed to fight the blaze, the Valencian regional government said on Twitter. And so far, 1,500 people have been evacuated from 8 municipalities in the area, according to regional government spokeswoman Aitana Mas, adding that the blaze had incinerated more than 3,000 hectares within a 30-kilometer perimeter. Firefighters warned of added difficulties posed by strong winds that are going to get stronger in the coming hours. In other news, Indonesia's Mount Eli Lewotolok erupted, belching a tower of smoke and ash almost a kilometer into the sky and prompting authorities to impose a no-go zone in the area. There were no immediate reports of injuries or damage from the eruption, which sent up a tower of volcanic smoke 700 meters high in a remote part of the Southeast Asian archipelago nation. But authorities imposed an exclusion zone of 2 kilometers around the crater in East Nusa Tenggara province and advised nearby residents to wear masks to avoid respiratory problems. Sugeng Mujianto, head of the country's geological agency, warned residents in a statement to be alert for potential dangers from lava flows and hot clouds. Li Lewotolok's alert status remained at its third highest level after Friday's eruption, and authorities were yet to order any evacuations. Indonesia is home to about 130 active volcanoes due to its position on the Ring of Fire. In Park City, Utah, actress and business mogul Gwyneth Paltrow took the witness stand, defending herself in a lawsuit from a man who claimed she crashed into him in a skiing accident 7 years ago and severely injured him. Let's listen in.
So let's talk about those things. Did you know the rules at the time of the collision, that if you're in a collision with someone, you need to give your name and information, contact information?
So because I was hit by Mr. Sanderson and he was at fault, I assumed that Eric, who was our ski instructor who was there at the time, who was overseeing the event, he said, I'm going to leave all of your information, and he said, you should go ski down because my kids were waiting for me. Well, he was uphill of me, so he was higher than me, and he pressed whatever of his body against my back when his skis slid between mine.
Were you standing still when the skis came between you?
No, I was gently skiing, and he kind of gently skied right into me.
It says a male skier took her out from behind. Is
Yes.
that what happened?
Yes,
This report is accurate?
very.
I didn't see it, but heard her scream as she went down. Do you dispute that?
I don't.
I skied directly to her. Did he do that?
He did, yes.
The man was behind her. Both were in discomfort. Is that all true?
Yes.
Now, in opening statements, Terry Sanderson's lawyer said the alleged collision on the slopes of Deer Valley had cost him damages worth $3.3 million. The Shakespeare in Love actress has in turn counter-sued. The alleged collision occurred in February 2016 at Deer Valley, a glamorous ski resort above the swanky, larger resort of Park City in the Rocky Mountains. Deer Valley hosted Winter Olympic skiing events in 2002, while Park City is home to the annual Sundance Film Fest. Lawrence D. Buller, representing Sanderson, said in his opening statement that Paltrow had been skiing in a dangerous and reckless manner and had caused his client 4 broken ribs and permanent brain damage. Paltrow says Sanderson skied into her back and is countersuing for a nominal $1 plus legal expenses. Her lawyer, Owen, said Gwyneth is a conservative skier who was not going fast and said she had initially feared she was being assaulted when Sanderson appeared directly behind her. Paltrow's lawyer, Stephen Owens, told the Park City Court that Sanderson is obsessed with the lawsuit and that the case was a meritless claim of false allegation. Violent protests against pensions reform in France led to the postponement of King Charles III's trip to the country. King Charles' first foreign trip as monarch had been intended to highlight warming Franco-British relations. Instead, it has underlined the severity of demonstrations engulfing Britain's neighbor. President Emmanuel Macron asked for the postponement during talks on Friday morning, with the change blamed on a call for fresh strikes next Tuesday on the second day of the King's tour. King Charles and Queen Camilla had been scheduled to visit from Sunday to Wednesday. It would have been his first state visit since taking the throne in September. Now, President Macron says the trip needs to be rescheduled when calm has been restored. According to the agenda given by Buckingham Palace, King Charles was due to join Macron for a ceremony of remembrance and wreath-laying at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris on Monday, and also address lawmakers at the French Senate. While in the Bordeaux region, he was also set to pay a visit to an organic vineyard, as well as a tour an area devastated by wildfires last summer during an extreme drought that affected much of Western Europe. Meanwhile, France today banned public sector employees from downloading recreational applications on their work phones, following bans of TikTok in other European countries. According to the ministry, the government has decided from now on to ban the downloading and installation of recreational applications on professional telephones given to public servants. A source at the ministry said the ban would include game apps like Candy Crush, streaming apps like Netflix, and recreational apps like TikTok. TikTok is hugely popular worldwide for sharing short viral videos. But the European Commission, as well as governments in the Netherlands, Britain, the United States, Canada, and New Zealand have told officials they cannot use the mobile phone app on work devices over fears of ties to the communist government in Beijing. The group has insisted the Chinese government has no control over or access to its data, but the firm acknowledged in November that some employees in China could access European user data, and in December it said that employees had used the data to spy on journalists. Meanwhile, TikTok CEO Shao Zichu faced relentless questioning from combative U.S. lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle over the video sharing app's alleged ties to China and its danger to teens. The Harvard-educated former banker failed over more than 5 grueling hours to defuse an existential threat to TikTok as the app seeks to survive a White House ultimatum that it either split from its Chinese ownership or be banned in the U.S. Take a look.
Members of the committee, thank you for your time. I am Shou Chu, and I'm from Singapore. That's where I was born, as were my parents. All U.S. user data is stored by default in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, and access to that is controlled by American personnel.
ByteDance employees in China, including engineers, currently have access to U.S. data?
Congressman, I would appreciate this. This is a complex topic. Today, all data is stored by default.
No, it's not that complex. Yes or no, do they have access to user data?
After Project Texas is done, the answer is no. Today, there is still some data that we need to delete.
But we've heard already from the ranking.
This is a tool that is ultimately within the control of the Chinese government, and to me, it screams out with national security concerns.
Might sound a little funny, but you have, in fact, been one of the few people to unite this committee, members, Republicans and Democrats, to be in agreement that we are frustrated with TikTok. We're upset with TikTok.
This is so attractive. TikTok poses as a Mr. Rogers neighborhood, but it acts like Big Brother. And that's got to stop.
But all the countries in the world are saying it's not a private enterprise, it's part of the Chinese Communist Party. What say you, sir, yes or no? Is it part of the Chinese Communist Party, as everybody thinks, or are you still living in some mystical world?
I disagree with many conclusions.
So you're living in the mystical world. I yield back.
Please rename your project. Texas is not the appropriate name. We stand for freedom and transparency, and we don't want your project.
A lot of risks that are pointed out are hypothetical and theoretical risks. I have not seen any evidence. I'm, eagerly awaiting discussions where we can talk about evidence, and we then can address the concerns that are being raised.
But the Chinese government has that data. How can you promise that that will move into the United States of America and be protected here?
Congresswoman, I have seen no evidence that the Chinese government has access to that data. They have never asked us. We have not provided.
Well, you know what?
I
find that actually preposterous.
In tonight's other news, Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio came back home from Ukraine, where he visited Bucha, the site of atrocities allegedly committed by Russia. Our correspondent from Japan, Dennis Liu, reports from Tokyo.
Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio returned to Tokyo on Thursday morning after visiting Ukraine and other countries. He visited Bucha, a town near the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, where Russian forces were accused of widespread atrocities. He expressed strong indignation during a visit there.
改めて今日ブチャの地に足を運ばせていただきまして、こうした残虐な行為に対して強い憤りを感じます。
Kishida is the last group of 7 leaders to visit Ukraine. Kishida visited Bucha ahead of expected meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Я радий дуже сьогодні вітати в Києві пана прем'єр-міністра Японії Кішиду Фуміо, дійсно сильного захисника міжнародного порядку і давнього друга України. Символічно.
According to a statement released by Japan's foreign ministry, Kishida's visit is intended to show his respect for the courage and perseverance of the Ukrainian people standing up to defend their homeland. The nation has also taken the unusual step of sending defensive equipment and offering refuge to those fleeing the conflict. However, due to the nation's post-war constitution limiting its military capacity to defensive measures, Japan has not provided military support. Kishida's trip coincided with a visit by Chinese President Xi Jinping to Moscow for talks with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, with the Ukraine conflict high on the agenda. Prime Minister Kishida Fumio said that through his meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, he reaffirmed the importance of supporting Ukraine and renewed his determination to uphold the international order based on the rule of law. He vowed to keep this in mind as he prepares to host a summit of Group of 7 leaders in Hiroshima in May. Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this is Dennis Liu, reminding you to stay alert, for we live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, art historians have finally solved the identity of Leonardo da Vinci's mother nearly 5 centuries after the artist's death. A leading academic has said Leonardo da Vinci, the creator of Mona Lisa and perhaps the symbol of the Renaissance, was in fact only half Italian, claiming the genius mother was a Circassian slave. According to Carlo De Vecchio, da Vinci's mother at some point in her life was kidnapped, taken away from her country. Our correspondent from Italy, Mia San Vicente Abad, reports from Rome.
New research revealed that Leonardo da Vinci, the painter of the Mona Lisa and the symbol of the Renaissance, was actually only half Italian, and that his mother was a slave from the Caucasus. Da Vinci's mother had long been thought to be a Tuscan peasant, but University of Naples professor Carlo Vecchi, a specialist in the Old Master, believes that the truth is more complicated. In the Italian city, she met a young notary, Piero da Vinci, and their son was called Leonardo.
La madre di Leonardo era una schiava circassa, cioè una ragazza, una donna che a un certo punto della sua vita è stata rapita, portata via dal suo paese d'origine, cioè le montagne del Caucaso, venduta e rivenduta più volte a Costantinopoli, Venezia, è arrivata a Firenze e a Firenze è stata incontrata da questo giovane notaio, Ser Piero da Vinci, e il loro figlio si chiama Leonardo. Leonardo non è italiano, lo è solo a metà e forse non è la parte migliore, cioè la parte come figlio di un notaio un po' noioso. La parte migliore probabilmente di Leonardo è quello che viene da sua madre.
The findings of Vinci, who has spent decades studying Da Vinci and curating his works, are based on Florence City archives.
Questa storia si basa su tutta una serie di documenti che si trovano negli archivi. Il più importante di questi documenti è un documento scritto proprio da Ser Piero da Vinci, il padre di Leonardo, e quello che mi ha colpito fin dall'inizio, questo documento, è l'atto di liberazione di Caterina. Cioè, pensare.
They have formed the basis of a new novel, The Smile of Caterina, the mother of Leonardo, while also shedding new light on the artist himself. Any new discovery about Da Vinci is hotly contested by the small world of experts who study him, but Vinci insists that the evidence is there. Among the documents he found is one written by Da Vinci's father himself, a legal document of emancipation for Caterina to recover her freedom and recover her human dignity. This document is dated 1452 and was presented at a press conference at the headquarters of publishing house Giunti in Florence. His assertion offers a radical change of perspective on Da Vinci, who was believed to have been the product of an affair between Peter or Piero da Vinci and a different woman, young Tuscan peasant Caterina di Meo Lippi. Born in 1452, in the countryside outside Florence, Da Vinci spent his life traveling around Italy before dying in Amboise, France in 1519 at the court of King Francis I. Vinci believes the difficult life of his migrant mother had an impact on the work of her brilliant son. Da Vinci was a polymath, an artist who mastered several disciplines including sculpture, drawing, music, and painting, but also engineering, anatomy, botany, and architecture. But Paolo Galluzzi, Da Vinci historian and a member of prestigious Lincei Scientific Academy in Rome, said it is by far the most convincing.
Credo che rimanga per forza un minimo di dubbio, perché non possiamo fare la prova del DNA. Non esistono i DNA né di Leonardo né di Caterina. Però per quanto riguarda la documentazione storica è certamente di gran lunga la più convincente ipotesi che sia stata fin qui formulata sulla madre di Leonardo, formulata in maniera brillante, convincente, dal punto di vista documentario perfetta.
Reporting from Rome, Italy, I am Mia San Vicente Abad, reminding you to stay alert because we live in extraordinary times.
Thank you, Mia. Meanwhile, the cherry blossom trees in Washington, D.C. are in full bloom. Our Northern American correspondent, Elise Danielle, reports from Washington, D.C.
Every spring here in Washington, D.C., cherry blossom trees are a sight to behold. These trees are a reminder of the friendship between the people of the United States and of Japan. According to the National Park Service, this week marks the peak bloom of these beautiful trees. The average peak bloom date is around April 4. It is when 70% of the flowers of the cherry blossom trees are open. The blooming period can last up to 14 days. They say the best time to see them is from 4 to 7 days after peak bloom begins. The blossoms, however, can last for up to 2 weeks under favorable conditions. A few warmer days coming up will bring many more of these pretty flowers out.
I did. Came up about 20 miles. I got up around 5 o'clock, wanted to be here for the sunrise, and it didn't disappoint. Actually, now that I'm retired, this is my first time that I've been able to carve out the time to come down here and really enjoy local treasure.
I think it's just really beautiful getting to see it at sunrise. It's really surreal that we have these here, and I think it's one of the nicest parts about living here, and so unique that it only happens for such a short period of time. And so many people come in to see them from all over the world. So I think that's really cool.
It's beautiful. Came to see them before, before the crowds get here.
I mean, so I enjoy nature. I've traveled a lot in different places in nature also. So you get to compare. Okay, yes, you get to see how much there is here also. And these are gifts, as you know, from Japan. So it's good to see them.
Surrounded with beauty here in the U.S. Capitol, Elise Danielle, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Almost 50 years after his famed tightrope walk between the Twin Towers in New York, Philippe Petit still has his head in the clouds. Even at his advanced age, the high wire artist continues to defy gravity. Take a look.
Moi, je ne prendrai jamais ma retraite et donc j'ai dans mes manches plein de projets. En fait, j'ai une grande boîte qui est sous le lit et quand je la tire, la boîte, il y a une étiquette, il y a marqué projet. Et dans cette boîte, il y a des lieux extraordinaires, des lieux naturels, des abysses, des canyons, des icebergs et il y a aussi des buildings incroyables. Et donc, oui, j'ai plein de projets. C'est vraiment pas un métier, c'est une vie de passion, c'est une vie d'aventure. Deux spectacles ne sont jamais les mêmes, les gens sont différents dans les différents lieux du globe, les bâtiments sont aussi différents. C'est à chaque fois une aventure où j'apprends, où je découvre et j'ai un grand plaisir à être le constructeur.
And take a look. A powerful geomagnetic storm hit the Earth following instability in the solar atmosphere. The phenomenon led to bright and colorful explosions of colors in the sky of northern Finland. Auroras are caused by solar plasma or flares interacting with gas in the atmosphere, and this makes them release light in ripples of color across the sky. At any given moment, the sun is ejecting charged particles from its corona or upper atmosphere, and it created what's called the solar wind. When that wind slams into Earth's ionosphere or upper atmosphere, the aurora is born. Now, in the northern hemisphere, the phenomenon is called the northern aurora lights or Aurora Borealis, while in the southern hemisphere, it's called the southern lights or Aurora Australis. The science behind the northern lights wasn't theorized until the turn of the 20th century. Space.com reports that Norwegian scientist Christian Birkeland proposed that electrons emitted from sunspots produce the atmospheric lights after being guided toward the poles by Earth's magnetic field. The theory would eventually prove correct, but not until long after Birkeland's 1917 death. And we'll leave you with some pictures of Venus shining close to the slender slither of the young moon, providing an eye-catching sight in the night of the sky. According to Space.com, you'll immediately notice the crescent moon appearing as a slender sliver. Its disk will be illuminated just 6% by sunlight, and hovering well above and slightly to the left of the lunar crescent will be the planet Venus, shining like a brilliant slivery white celestial lantern of magnitude -4.0. The two objects will be separated by roughly 6.5 degrees, which is roughly equal to 2/3 of the apparent width of your fist held at arm's length. Now, this won't be an exceptionally close approach between these two objects, but their great brilliance makes them an eye-catching sight in the early morning sky. And as always, I'll end the day on a thoughtful note. Our ability to look back and smile at our past is proof that God's plan is to keep us moving forward. This has been Eagle News International. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay alert, stay informed, because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.